Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. We talk about anything and everything that has to do with wedding ceremonies. My name is Clint Hufton. With me is a gentleman that knows a lot about wedding ceremonies and probably more than he's willing to reveal. The one and only J.P. Reynolds.
Clint, as always, good to be with you, and I'm excited about our time together today. I'll let you introduce our guest.
I'm very excited about our special guest. He owns a video company. I've worked with him a million times. I just am so excited because he's got stories to tell. Dan Douglas. Dan, how are you?
Glenn, thank you so much for having me. This is so exciting. I'm very, very happy to be here today.
Oh, you don't know how excited we are because video in wedding ceremonies is always kind of like floating around. And we know that you see everything. A long time ago, I actually edited videos of events, including weddings and bar mitzvahs and things like that. So I know what it's like to be looking at that screen after the event and see all the things that nobody else saw or realized was going on. But before we
Oh,
get
yeah.
into that, tell everybody the name of your company. And also, I love the story of how you started business and at what age you started. So go ahead.
It's Plug Wedding Films. My first ceremony I've shot, I was very young, was in 1997. So I've seen a lot of things, a lot of officiants, a lot of ceremonies for sure. I started my company very, very young, right out of high school, 17 years old. When we first started, it was one or two weddings, and it exploded within 1 year to 100 weddings. But I've seen a lot of changes, especially with people over the years. Ceremonies have changed a little bit too. I think that's the most kind of sacred part that never seems to, it always has a classic, feel to it, or you hope it does. But I feel like, the people have been the biggest change of the industry in the last year.
The
So,
people, what does that mean? The people.
for instance, a couple weeks ago, we had a bride that instead of choosing an officiant, she had her two brothers wanted to officiate the wedding. Now, when I went to Mike, the two brothers, I said, "Hey, so you guys are doing this ceremony? Okay, cool. That's gonna be fun." They said, "Yeah, we're just gonna wing it."
Oh,
And I said,
oh,
"Oh no, okay."
oh, ouch. Oh,
And
man.
then I went to the bride and I said, "Oh, very cool. Your brothers are going to do this." She's like, "Yeah, they have so many stories. They have so many things to tell. I cannot wait for what they're going to say." She walked down the aisle, and as soon as I could get her in focus, the two brothers are up there. I went over to the other camera, and all of a sudden, I run back and I hear, "We now pronounce you husband and wife." And everybody is confused because the audience is waiting for a story. The photographer doesn't have any shots. And what had happened is the brothers spaced out and they couldn't remember anything they were going to say. As they were so nervous, they pronounced her husband and wife, and the bride had just gotten up there. Remember, no shots. So we hadn't even got a chance to even focus cameras. I felt so bad because the audience were just sitting there, with their arms crossed, waiting for a story, waiting for a little bit about them. And the bride, puzzled, walked away. And afterward, I said, "Is everything okay?" She's like, "I don't believe they didn't write anything down." And it's sad because I feel like ceremonies are what set the tone for the whole day. And the day was a little different, when you have a 1 minute ceremony. Anyway, I saw that, and that was one of the things I mean by changing with people, you kind of hire your friend or your family to do it. So
Dad, it's amazing. So many people have said that the ceremony sets the tone for the rest of the day. And I forgot that you are there the rest of the day, that
yeah.
you shoot everything, have a palpable understanding of what the ceremony does to the rest of the day.
I was curious, did they say vows?
They did not say vows, but all I know is there was a lot of chatter about that for 10 or 15 minutes after the ceremony, and her talking to them, "What did why didn't you do this and that?" And so as we went into the photo session, you kind of have that still on them during the photo session, during the reception, a little bit of there too. So it was very awkward. And of course, one of them was he made a speech during the reception, and he still was a little bit embarrassed. He still had that little bit of that, "Oh gosh, what did I do? I feel so bad." So it kind of carried over the whole night.
Stunning,
Yeah,
stunning.
we're stunned. This is crazy. JP, you mentioned the marriage license. They never actually committed to each other because they were pronounced husband and wife before anything could happen. Dan was talking about, well, what the contract or the marriage license, what's the big deal? This is fascinating on so many levels. It sounds to me like they were
Not
clueless on all levels, including the marriage license.
right. I mean, it's not just the license, it's the license is documenting that on this date at this location, I witnessed the above two people freely enter into a marriage contract. Well, if they didn't say, "I take you to be," they didn't enter into the contract. They just had a little show.
Very little.
What's sad about this whole thing is that your bride and groom are spending a lot on video and photo, and a lot of what I use to tell the story is during the ceremony. The vows, the people, grandma smiling, the hugs, the first, all these things together, we blend together. But when you have no content to use, and the photographer doesn't too, so it kind of ruins not only your ceremony, but a little bit of your video and photos too. The other thing I see is a very generic officiants a lot too. This happened at Nixon Library where they had an officiant arrive. He arrived 10 minutes to ceremony time. The only reason I freak out a little bit is because I don't have a mic to place on them, so I can't capture the audio. And so I kept asking, where's your officiant at? I don't know. We just hired him from, it was some random site or some place, and he's supposed to show up. And I'm like, okay, when is he arriving? He's supposed to be here an hour ago. I mic him up. He arrives literally 10 minutes before. I mic him up as fast as I can. And he actually asked what the mic was for. I said, well, it's for your vows for video. Okay. So I could tell he was very, very new. So I knew this was going to be a little bit of a disaster. Sure enough, he had nothing personal about them. He wrote nothing about them down. The most inexpensive person they could find. And during the ceremony, he just did the vows. He got him up there and then he sent him down there. The bride asked her afterward and she said, gosh, that was so cold. My ceremony felt very cold to me. She's like, I never knew it was important to really hire somebody that knows how to officiate a wedding. And in the video, it translates the same. It was just straightforward and out, and he was out. He was done. He didn't stay around. He just took off. I see a lot of that happen now too. Wow.
JP, I've known Dan for a long time, and I've been very, very, very lucky that he uses what the officiant says during the ceremony as the soundtrack for the highlight video that he does for the couples. And it's really powerful the way he puts it all together. Now, my first thought when he said that the brothers kind of spaced out, my first thought was, that's funny. But then when you peel away the layers, it becomes sad. What would you call that kind of an officiant, JP, that just shows up and does whatever they do and then they leave? What do you call that?
Well, I'm from New York, Dan. So there are a lot of descriptions going through my mind right now. Someone who is, at the very least, not professional. But here's the thing, yesterday I Zoomed with two couples who are getting married next year, couples who are preeminently well organized. What I do understand, a lot of couples who do not have any kind of religious background, and so they're not familiar with ceremony and ritual, no matter how poorly it may sound, but just have no sense of ritual and ceremony. It is a very puzzling aspect to the wedding celebration, what to do with the ceremony. I always begin the conversation by saying, well, is there anything you do want, anything you don't want, anything that you've seen and you liked, or anything that you've seen and you didn't like? And more times than not, people just stare at me. Well, I don't know. We don't know. I think, Clint, you and I approach this as part of our responsibilities to educate people.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
What a ceremony can look like and feel like. And it's interesting, Dan, because I've often said, but you're making me reconsider now, you can have a great wedding with a lousy ceremony. But if you have a great ceremony, it propels people into the celebration and reminds them of what they're celebrating. But you actually are giving me pause here, because if you have a disjointed ceremony, it is going to confuse people as they go to get a drink.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened.
Have you ever heard somebody say that they're going to go with someone who's never done it before? Have you ever had the impulse to say, you might want to rethink that?
Oh, yeah.
Just because of your experience. Yeah.
All the time. And I always will tell them, I say, well, be careful doing that, because what I'm after during the ceremony are vows, true to life moments. You write your personal vows. I love that. Other big thing I see that I don't like is someone that's constantly making jokes after jokes after jokes. Now, I love to have a funny ceremony. That's a little bit of fun. But when you try to joke every little thing and it doesn't come off right, it's very cringy. So I always say, whoever you're hiring, make sure they're not trying to play jokes for every 5 seconds. We don't need that. This is a ceremony. It's great to have a fun little humorous ceremony, but make sure it's just going to be classical, authentic, and true to life, because that's what we're looking for to make your video successful, to make it where you want to watch it again, to make it where your family's going to watch it. Many times people will tell me, hey, I just got the highlights to your video. It's a 5-minute highlights. Can I have the full edit? Oh, okay, what part are you looking for? The ceremony. You want the ceremony? Yeah, I want to see my friends there. I want to see my vows. Everyone there that has passed away, and I want to see them during that ceremony. I want to see myself doing my vows, and I want to watch that every single year. Can we do that? And I'll always say yes. Let's edit together your ceremony and give that to you. It's always the ceremony. They always want those moments back.
I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm an officiant, so I would like what we do to be the most important thing of the day. And I would love the fact that your job category, Dan, is so specific, and your needs and what you need in order to provide them with the product that they're buying. There's so many layers to it, and the way you're describing it and how emotionally impactful videos are probably the best sales tool that you have for your company. Is that fair?
It's the only sales tool I have. Absolutely. For the brides too, for her to, there's so many times I cut back to the ceremony. You got the kiss, you got the presentation, you got something the officiant saying that is memorable together, So if you invest in a weak person or you just hire a random, we had even someone that hired their grandpa up there, and grandpa went on and on and on to the point where the bride grabbed his Bible and said, "Grandpa, that's enough. It's been 45 minutes. This is supposed to be 20 minutes. We can't." And then he went on for another 15, and she finally said, "We're done. We're done. We're done, Grandpa." So that actually happened at a
Wow.
Disney wedding. We do a lot of Disney weddings, and that just happened. And she said, "Please, please, wait. It's been too long," because he wanted to keep talking. And I think family kind of think it's more about them and ramble and don't understand, hey, we're here for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. There's other things for them to do. We got to move the show along, but you also got to make it powerful. Family members, hey, if they got experience, are awesome. But the thing with the brothers was probably the most sad for me to see, because there's nothing to showcase with her wedding as far as a ceremony at all.
Grandpa going on forever. Either way, what are people
Yes.
going to be
Yeah.
talking about right after the ceremony? Yeah, absolutely.
So
Are you okay, JP?
Everything that you're saying, I know, but having you come from the front line and report on these ceremonies, it's a little hard to wrap my mind around. What it says is that the couple, it would appear that these couples had no input in the ceremony. At no point did they sit grandpa down, take him out for dinner, and say, "Hey, we just want to review with you. This is what we're looking for.
right.
Do you have a draft that we could look at?" Same with the brothers. Now, we don't want you to embarrass us. What are the stories you're thinking of telling? It just seems like, hey, would you mind on our wedding day just taking a few minutes beforehand and doing a ceremony for us? Great, thanks. Okay, we'll see you there. Do you want fish or do you want beef? That I find amazing, that there was at no point apparently a conversation.
Well,
Yeah.
sometimes the officiant kind of thinks they know better than anybody else. My brother-in-law got married back in New York. I think we were on Long Island. And they told the officiant, "Listen, we're not big religious people. We just would like something like maybe 10 minutes, something like that." And I swear to you, Dan, you'll appreciate this. This is back in the day when you had camcorders and tapes and that. And I said, I'll do that. I've got nothing else going on. I'll man the camera. In the middle of the ceremony, the guy was talking so long I had to change tapes. He just went on and on, even after they said. And then during the ceremony, you can see on video, they're kind of looking at each other and they're looking out at their family and like, this is taking way too long. But the guy just had in his mind, this is what I'm hired to do, and my voice is brilliant, and aren't I wonderful? And he just kept going on and on and on and on. Let's change the track a little bit. A lot of our audience is officiants. And so, from a video standpoint, have you ever had somebody blatantly disregard the cameras, or is there something that we can do to make your job easier to get an even better product?
The biggest thing for me that videographers are tending to look for is keeping clean audio. Even the pacing, positioning is a big thing. When the bride comes down the aisle, some officiants we work with will step in front of the photographers or be moving all around. I feel like the photo in the back, when we get that picture, that last shot where they go to kiss, I know good officiants tend to always move to the side out of the way instead of stay right by the bride and groom as they go to kiss, because then their faces are in it. That happens a lot. But I know it's good officiants will sort of like, "Hey, we now pronounce you husband and wife." and they'll kind of step a little way so we can get a clean photo. That's very helpful for us. You know, when they're doing the vows, if you have a very windy location like Terranea, if there's a mic there, it's always helpful, especially if it's really windy, you know, for them to speak into the mic, you know, a little bit, just because even if we have the mic, sometimes there's a lot of wind noise and things like that too. The best thing I can do is chat with them ahead of time and say, hey, where are you going to be? Where do you not want me to be? Where can we stay at each other's way? That's the biggest thing. Is it a little bit collision of there's so many people coming up there. You have people, you know, the bridesmaids, groomsmen, then you have the groom trying to see the bride coming down, and then the officiant. So if the officiant's trying to see the bride come down too, and he's in the way of the photographer, then you miss those shots. So I think the best thing is if the officiants just kind of be aware of we're trying to get those moments captured. That's probably the biggest thing for me, I feel like.
I always tell the photographer and the videographer, I have no rules. And especially during the processional, when people come with the aisle, I'll just back way up and say, you guys can stand right in front of me. I'm not doing anything. Just go ahead and get your shots. Gee, many Christmas. Back in the day, at the very beginning of my career as an officiant, the video people were on stilts, on wheels. Everybody stood right in front of the family. The photographers, the video people, they stood right in front of the family for the entire ceremony. They thought that their job was more important than the experience of the people present. It was bizarre. It's not my job to call them out and say, can you get out of the way? No, there is a live experience. It has to be experienced as opposed to what you do, which is you can relive the moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I remember that. I mean, I'll not remember that, but I remember seeing a lot of pictures and stilts, and you know, the cameras were so heavy, so they would have tripods where they wheel them around. You know, you'd be in front of everybody, which kind of would also distract from the ceremony. So, you know, for us, as soon as bride comes down, I'm already stepping back, getting out of the way. So family can, live that moment. So we're trying to stay as unobtrusive as possible. Get out, get back to the cameras, and then and then be able to start the shot. So I think just working together with the officiant. You know, the one time I always have an issue with the officiant is when they refuse to put the mic on. Though I'm not going to wear a mic. We're not going to put. I don't want to put a mic on, and
Why
whatever.
would they do that? Why would they not want to do that?
It's usually the guys that are newer. It's always the younger guys that are like, I don't want to put this on my, it's not going to look good. It's not going to look good. I'm like, oh, aren't you
Oh,
yet? It's just not
Wow.
going to look good. I also don't want you hearing what I'm going to say before the ceremony. And I have some private moments with them. I don't want that recorded. I'm like, well, I need to record it so I can this is for the bride and groom. It's not for you. I want to be able to capture this for the bride and groom. And then they'll refuse a mic. That's tough when that happens because then you lose his.
I find that I love that notion of I don't want you to record what I'm going to say at the beginning. It sounds very nefarious to me. It's like I don't want to be. It's like what could you possibly be saying to these people that you don't want to have
I know,
recorded?
recorded. Yeah, I wonder the same thing.
That also speaks to, and Clint, you and I have spoken about this many times, is it's understanding that each one of us is part of a team.
right.
When everybody goes into the celebration, understanding what our own role is and understanding we can only give the couple what they want if we are all working together rather than competing with one another. And I think a lot of times, the example you just gave of, yeah, no, I don't need a microphone. Dude, it's not about you. This is about the couple. This is about you doing what they have asked you to do. We're all just each a piece of the puzzle to create this tapestry.
We're all paid to be there. So,
Well,
Well,
that
hopefully,
brings up the photographers as well. I always ask the photographer and the videographer separately when I'm telling them what the ceremony is going to be so they can be where they need to be. I always say, have you worked with a photographer before? Sometimes it's the first time you guys have been in a professional situation and everybody has their own rhythms. Have you found that where you're working with a photographer that you've never worked with before and things get a little awkward?
oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because then you don't know where to anticipate where they're going to be, if they want to, because a lot of times you see me and the photographer up with you while they're coming down. But a lot of times one of them will come up and go in right in front of us and that blocks the shot. Or, if it's the videographer in the case, they can go in front of the photographer too. So the one way I know if it's a good team is if I go up to the photographer or the officiant and say, hey, here's the mic, or hey, photographer, let's work. Where are you going to be at this time? If they refuse to talk, or if they're just very just like, okay, got it, got it. If they're just not listening and they're kind of in that sense where they're the only important one at the wedding, again, not part of the team, then I always know there's going to be trouble. But if I come together and they collaborate, they're like, yeah, okay, where do you want to be during the middle of the ceremony? Okay, what about the end? Where can we plan that out? I always know it's going to be successful, always at that point.
Well, we've run out of time. You've been brilliant. You're exactly
Oh,
what I
thank
hoped
you.
you would be, telling
No,
the
thank
stories.
you.
And oh my gosh, the stories about the two brothers and the story about the grandfather. The grandfather I kind of can anticipate, but the two brothers, I didn't see that coming. That came out of left field.
Yeah.
No,
Dan, tell everybody how they can get in touch with you if they need to.
best way is just our website. It's just plugvideo.com, PLUG, plugvideo.com. Instagram, Dan Plug Films is the best way just to reach out to me there, DM me or send me an email.
JP, how can people get in touch with you?
jprweddings.com. From there, you can email me, find me on Instagram, all that good stuff.
My website is just my name. It's Clint Huff, CLINTHUFFT.com for all the things that I do. Please know JP is an accomplished author, and all of his books are in the Amazon store and in the Kindle store in Amazon. Plus, he's a communications expert. TheBusinessOfConfidence.com is that website, and I highly recommend that you check it all out because he has a lot to share and you can learn a lot from him. That's it for this episode of the Wedding Ceremony Podcast. This is Clint, and on behalf of JP and Dan, we will see you next time.